Hey guys, today we're going to be starting drawing in Flash so that you can start making your own animations in the next couple of weeks. So the first thing you need to do is create a new blank file. On this blank file, if you'll go ahead and make the background a blue color or whatever color you want it to be, we're going to be making a fish underwater so you can kind of decide what color you want your water to be. Once you have your water on there, go ahead and click on the oval tool. You need to come down and choose whatever color you want your fish to be. I'm going to make my fish purple. Put a black stroke around it, just a normal stroke will be fine. And then come out on the screen and draw your fish out. Okay? The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to come over and click on the line tool. We're going to go ahead and make the fins. So if you'll come over to the edge of your oval and draw out, and then connect that line back down. And then do that again to create the first of your fins. Then we're going to click on the selection tool and use that to curve it. So all I'm doing is I'm clicking on that line with the selection tool and curving it out so that we have the little fins on there. Okay? Next thing I'm going to do is just click on my fill tool, make sure that I have the color I want. I'm going to fill those little areas in. And finally, I'm going to come back and click on this selection tool and click on the line between the fins and the circle. Click on it and press delete. And that evens out that fish. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make fins on your fish. And we're going to use kind of the same thing. We're going to click on the line, come over and draw a line, and then draw another little one right beside it. Click on your selection tool and then curve it out so that you have your little fins. Okay, let's go ahead and put the dorsal fin on the fish. We're going to use the same steps that we just did. Click on the line tool. We're going to draw a line up and then bring that line right back down. Then click on your selection tool and do a little curve. Click on it and curve it. Click on it and curve it, and everybody's will look a little bit different. Mine kind of looks like a shark, but it'll be okay. And then I'm just going to fill that area in. Click on the selection tool right there and delete it out. So I have like a shark fish, but it'll work. Okay? Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my fish together. Go to Modify. Tell it to combine objects to union. And what that does is it just made your fish into one object that's all selected. And that way, it moves all at once. Alright guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put a mouth on our fish. So if you'll go ahead and click on the Polystar tool, we're going to go down and click on Options. Make sure our number of sides is set at 3. Come out and draw a triangle. We're going to select our triangle, go up to Modify, Combine Objects, Union. We're going to move our triangle over, click on the Free Transform tool and shrink it down. Okay, go ahead and click on your selection tool and select everything and tell it to modify, punch, and it will punch out the mouth. Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and add an eye onto our fish. So here's what I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is go to View, and under Snapping, make sure that there's no check marks on any of these. If there is, just click on it and it'll turn it off, and then come in again, click on it, and it'll turn it off. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the oval tool, come down and change our fill color to white, and just draw a little circle for your eyeball. We're going to select our whole eyeball, and we've got to combine it together so that it's one image. So go down to Modify Group, and now it's just one image, and we want to make sure that it's going to be on top of the fish, so we're going to go to Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front. Once you've done that, you can just drag your eye over. And now we're going to give it a little eyeball. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click on the oval tool, come down and choose what color. I'm going to give mine a pink eye. Draw your circle. We're going to select it. We're going to group it. And then we're going to arrange it in front. And then drag it over to wherever you want it to be in your eye. Okay? Once you've done that, we need to select our whole fish and go ahead and group that together as well. Alright guys, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a text box. We're going to create this text box using the rectangular tool, so if you'll go ahead and click on that. And you should be familiar with this one, we've kind of played with it already. If you'll go ahead and put your fill color to a white color. And then down here under here where you see the little parentheses, what this is this decides if it's a rounded or a straight. So we're going to go ahead and put in 25 in this first one, and when this lock is selected, that means that that's locked and it'll make all of the sides the same. Go ahead and press enter and it'll change all your numbers to that 25. So then if you'll come out and draw, now you have a little thought bubble. We're going to go ahead and kind of copy what we did with the fin and come out and draw a little tail, then draw a little tail. And then using our selection tool, we're going to curve that in so that it looks more like a little bubble. Go ahead and fill it with that white color. And then click on the little line in between those and press delete. You might have to do it a couple of times because there's a couple of lines. And now we have a little word bubble. Okay, let's go ahead and put some words in our word bubble. So if you'll click on your text tool, come out and click somewhere in your word bubble and go ahead and type in what you want it to say. I'm going to have mine say go fish because it's a fish. I'm going to highlight that just like we did when we were doing our animations. Select all of that, come down and change our font to whatever you want, and remember it's going to give you a little preview of what that font looks like over there in the corner as you're working on it. So just choose whichever font you want. You can choose your color right here. I'm going to change mine to a purple. And then you can change your size. And then once I'm satisfied, I'm just going to move my letters back in there. I think I made mine too big. Let me shrink them down. There we go. Now there is one thing new that I want you to learn about text. If you'll come down where it says filters, under the filters menu, press the plus sign. And then down here, click on the arrow that scrolls down. And when you do that, it gives you a whole bunch of different options that are kind of similar to Photoshop. We're going to do the drop shadow option. And when you do that, it just simply adds a drop shadow, just like in blending options in Photoshop. You can change the color if you wanted to. So if I wanted a pink drop shadow, I could change it to that. Alright guys, now let's go ahead and add some bubbles onto our fish. I'm just going to select my little word bubble. I'm going to group it all together so that I can move it at once, and I'm going to scoot them over a little bit so that my bubbles don't get in the way. Then I'm going to come down and choose my oval tool. I'm going to come over and choose no stroke. Then I'm going to click on my fill, and I'm going to choose a radial fill. On this radial fill, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it where it's just two colors. I want the inside color to be white. And then on the outside color, I'm going to click on that. And when I get it, I can do the little eyedropper, and I'm going to come out and click on my background so that it sucks up that color. And once I have a gradient that's radial, and it's got white in the middle and blue on the outside, I'm going to come out and just draw a whole bunch of little bubbles. And bubbles are never matched, so they can be different sizes. It's however big you want your bubbles to be. Alright, so there's our bubbles. Alright, let's go ahead and start grouping our bubbles together. So I'm going to click on my selection tool. I'm going to select a few bubbles and then tell it to group. And then I'm going to select those bubbles and add on a little bit more bubbles and tell it to group. And each time I'm just adding a few more bubbles. So I'm going to come down here and group those bubbles together. And then I'm going to come down here and try to group all of these at once. And it's going to find me because my bubble's in the way. So I'm going to select my bubble and move my text bubble out of the way for a minute. And then I'm going to select all my bubbles and group them. And then I'm going to come back over to my word bubble. I just want my word bubble, I don't want my fish, and move it back over here. So now what I've done is I have three different groups. I have my bubbles group, I have my word group, and then I have my fish group. Alright, so at this point we have one layer and we have three different groups of objects. So we've kind of drawn all these objects together. And now what we need to do is we need to break them up into layers. So I'm going to show you a trick, because if you don't do it like that, like this, then every time you do one part of the fish, you have to do a different layer. So we'd have a million different layers. So here's what I want you to do. If you'll go to Edit, Select All, that selects your three different groups. So once again, we have our bubbles group, we have our text bubble group, and we have our fish group over here. Once you have all of that, what we're going to do is we're going to click. We're going to right click down on these. Oops, it's going to find me. Let me try it again. Edit, Select All. Alright, I'm going to come out and right click on my fish, and remember all of my different parts are selected. I'm going to tell it to distribute to layers. And you'll notice what it has done is it's distributed it into three different layers. And when you click on that layer, you can tell which one of these is the correct layer. So for instance, our first layer, nothing selected, so that means it's our background layer. So I'm just going to double click and rename that my background layer. My second layer, when I click on it, it highlights the bubbles. So I'm just going to double click on that, choose bubbles, and I'm just going to copy that process until I get all of my layers copied. Okay, so now I'm going to go to layer 4. I'm going to rename it my fish layer, and now I have 4 different layers to where I can actually go back and move those layers and animate each layer individually. So now what I want you to do is go ahead and save this in your Flash file as fish. Okay, and then here in a minute I'm going to give you an example of what your assignment is going to be for the day.